You know, it's so rare you find something so touching it leaves you breathless. Even more rare to find a documentary that not only inspires, but does so while showing the subject warts and all. Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, does just that. For me, Christopher Reeve was and always will be Superman. He was so perfect, embodying on screen the hopeful nature and the kindness, the compassion, the strength and weakness that came with the part. He could make you see him as nerdy Clark Kent or the Man of Steel with a shift in body language, and no one has ever played the role better. But when he nearly died in a horse riding accident in the mid-90s, I had to learn to see him in a new way, and Reeve had to learn to see himself and his life in a way he never imagined. I mean, here was a guy who prided himself on his adventurism, his competitiveness, and acting ability, a guy who succeeded at everything he put his hand to through sheer hard work and talent. There were no limits to his prospects, and yet, through the stories of his friends and family, you learn there was an arrogance and a self-doubt that drove him. He grew up in a broken home where he was never good enough for his demanding father. He repeated his father's sins with his own children, and though he was a very generous and loving person, a lot of his life was focused on himself and what he wanted. And it took the loss of his independence and the use of his body to force him to realize a new way of living, not only physically, but in his outlook on life and what really matters. As the documentary goes on, you see this was a man who had to be broken to be reborn. And it was only through the love and commitment of his family that he allowed himself to be reborn. One of the moments that hit hardest for me was where his son William read a journal entry from his mom. She talks about how all she wants is to hug Chris and get hugged back. My wife always says that she lives on my hugs, that when I wrap my arms around her, she feels safe and everything is right. If I couldn't hug her back, it would destroy her and me both. I can't even imagine what that would be like. So imagine that, but you work through such personal pain to build a foundation that would eventually help others walk, even if you can't help yourself. The point is, Christopher Reeve wasn't a perfect man. Sometimes he wasn't even a good man, but he became more of a hero after his accident than he ever was wearing the cape. And this documentary shows him, warts and all, and I think everyone should give it a watch. Even if you don't care about the actor, you'll find yourself tearing up over his life, fall, and rebirth. The lives he touched and the remembrances of those who fought so voraciously to stand by him even though he couldn't. Now, the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation continues to fund research for a cure for spinal paralysis. They also fund quality of life efforts for families who need extra help with their disabled kin. And I never do this, but there's a link to the foundation in the description below. And if you click the big red donate button in the upper right-hand corner of that page, you'll be doing a small part to help fund research and services for disabled people the world over. I'm not sponsored by them, they didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to donate what I can. For now, I'll just leave you with this PSA from Smallville just before he died. His humor and humility will always make me smile.
Please help us conquer paralysis.
Call the Christopher Reeve Paralysis Foundation at 1-800-225-0292.
Or visit the CRPF website at christopherreeve.org.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please. Please call.